Once in a small town lived a pastor named Pastor John, known for his eloquent sermons and deep knowledge of the Bible. He had a reputation for being a humble and caring leader, but as time went on, something about him began to change. Pastor John started preaching more passionately about sowing seeds to God, a concept he often discussed during his Sunday services. He explained that sowing seeds, essentially giving money to the church, was a way to earn blessings, prosperity, and favor from God. He would emphasize that the more one gave, the more they would receive in return. God cannot bless you unless you plant the seed, he would, with a warm smile, often followed by an appeal to the congregation emotions. At first, his calls for financial contributions were subtle. He encouraged members to donate a small percentage of their income to support the church's missions and outreach programs. People were happy to give, believing in the importance of supporting their community. However, Pastor John soon began to make it clear that the amount they gave mattered. He created a tier system. The more money you gave, the greater your blessings would be. Those who contributed generously were praised publicly, with Pastor John proclaiming that their faith was exceptional. They were even promised health, wealth, and prosperity in the coming year. On the other hand, those who gave less were subtly criticized for lacking faith. As weeks passed, the pressure to give more became topic of every service. Pastor John started holding special seed sowing events where members were expected to donate large sums of money. He told them that the church was on the verge of an exciting breakthrough. A new church building, community outreach program, and expanding their reach to more people. But he insisted these things could only happen if everyone contributed abundantly. The emotional manipulation was relentless. Pastor John would share testimonies of people who had given large sums of money and received miraculous financial windfalls, healing, or job promotions. He even arranged for a few wealthy members to share their success stories, reinforcing the idea that sowing large seeds always led to rewards from God. He promised members that if they trusted him in the process, they would experience unimaginable blessings. People began to feel trapped. They believed in his sincerity, in the goodness of the church, and they feared what would happen if they didn't give. Many were struggling financially. Pastor John told them not to worry, God would provide as long as they sowed their seeds with faith. One day a woman named Sarah, who had been giving faithfully for months, noticed that Pastor John's lifestyle seemed to be changing. He drove a new luxury car, wore expensive clothes, and was seen dining in fancy restaurants. Meanwhile, the church still seemed to lack the improvements Pastor John had promised. The outreach programs were underfunded, and the new church building was nowhere to be seen. Suspicious Sarah decided to quietly ask a few others about their donations and their experiences. She discovered that some members had been giving their last savings believing in the promise of miracles, but nothing had changed. Worse, some people had even fallen into financial hardship because they had stretched their budgets to thin in hopes of receiving God's blessings. In a quiet meeting with few trusted members, Sarah and the others realized they were victims of Pastor John's manipulation. They began to piece together the fact that Pastor John had been using the church as a front for his own financial gain. Instead of helping others, he had been using the church's influence to line his own pockets. Sarah and the group knew they had to act. They confronted Pastor John, questioning where the money was going and demanding transparency. Pastor John tried to convince them that their questioning lacked faith and was a sign of spiritual weakness. But Sarah and the others were not swayed. They gathered evidence of the misuse of funds and presented it to the church leadership. The truth came out. Pastor John was forced to step down, and the church community was devastated. Many members felt betrayed, their trust broken by the man they had once admired. Some chose to leave the church entirely, while others stayed to rebuild with a new leadership focused on church service and care. Though the damage had been done, Sarah and the other faithful members found solace in knowing they had uncovered the truth. They learned the importance of questioning authority when it seemed to exploit their faith and resources. As for Pastor John, his actions caught up with him. He faced legal consequences for his fraudulent activities and was no longer seen as trusted leader. In the end, the church learned a hard lesson that genuine faith should never be used as a tool for exploitation, and that true sowing of seeds is about giving from the heart, not out of fear or manipulation.